Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Anbiya wal Mursaleen. This is Mujib Qazi, and you're watching Washington Roundtable, our digital TV network connecting Kashmiris worldwide. I'm going to have a very different topic today to discuss because we have seen over the years that Kashmir has been used for many causes and purposes. So, the topic that I have chosen for today's discussion is Kashmir a cause or a mission, or is it just an industry, business entrepreneur, business industry, or a corporation for people who can make money out of it? I may not be able to cover the entire discussion in one episode, but I'm just going to lay down a platform where we can have this discussion going. Primarily in the world, it is conceived as a conflict between the two countries, India and Pakistan. But we have overlooked the aspiration and desires of the people of Kashmir. It's not a matter of territory, it's not a matter of a piece of land, but it's a matter of people who live in the five regions of Kashmir, comprised of Ladakh, Jammu, Srinagar, Azad Kashmir, Gilgit Baltistan. All these components of Kashmir make one state, and the people who live in there, about 22 million people who reside, their aspiration, their wills have been generally ignored by the parties of interest. Because this issue is not being resolved, so it costing the world, not just the region, not just the countries who are fighting for the piece of property which doesn't even belong to them, India, Pakistan, and China. But how many people and how many countries, how many industries in the world making money out of this conflict? If you look at India and Pakistan have no other conflict but the conflict of Kashmir. Everything else is secondary. If only and only these two countries sit down and resolve this issue, this conflict, just imagine how much money will be saved for the well-being of the people suffering on the both sides of the border. At this time, I'm just going to give you a slight comparison how much money is being spent on the defense, which is a defense budget for the 2020 and 2021. I'm going to start off with India and then we'll dive into Pakistan and let you draw the comparison. Currently, India is spending over $49.6 billion US dollars on the defense. That is their defense expenditure, which is 13% of their entire government expenditure. And remember, India is a country over 1.3 billion population, and they are spending this much money just for the sake of having a fight, for the sake of fight, for the sake of war. And this money would have been saved for the betterment of those who are living under poverty in the country. India is the third highest country that spends on the military arms, the third highest in the world. Obviously, the first one is US, the second one is China, and the third one is India. US spends over $778 billion. China spends $252 billion, and India spends $72.9 billion on their military expenditure that cost them to spend this much money for a useless purpose if they only resolve. Why did I mention all these three countries in the equation? Because this was the study done by a a research institute called Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. And this is the institute that have done this study and shared these figures with the world. This is an institute very well recognized that monitors the arms trading in the global stage. And you can see how much money is being spent on the arms trading by these three countries, US being one, China being the second one, and India being the third one in the world, which is 21% of the Indian population. 21% of the Indian population that suffers because of the hunger, which amounts to 256 million people every single day. They are suffering because of hunger. Money that was otherwise being spent on on the defense under the guise of conflict that they have between the two countries, or now it's three countries. This is how much they are spending in India. Poverty level in India right now, as I mentioned, has stricken 256 million people. They live under $2 per day. So their total income is $2 per day, and that's where they have to survive. And they are deprived of very basic needs of their life. Adequate food, clean drinking water, stable shelter. And I'm not talking about the housing, I'm talking about a shelter where they can house a family of two, three, five. And then obviously very poor sanitation system, electricity, and education and health and safety. People live on the street. And this is the current state of Pakistan. Now let's look at India. Let's look at what's happening in Pakistan. Pakistan spends $8.5 billion, which is 18.43% of its government expenditure on the defense, on the trade of arms, because they have no other conflict but this one. Obviously, there are other conflicts that are associated, but the main conflict is Kashmir. So the total expenditure of the government is 44 billions. 19.55 goes to debt payments. Just imagine a country that is facing huge challenges in terms of economy of the country. The total 44.8 billion government expenditure every year. Out of that, 19.55 goes towards the debt payments, 151 millions for education, and 545 million dollars for the healthcare. Now, why am I sharing these numbers? What I'm saying is, you see, compared to 8 billion for the defense, which for the country, I understand it is important for this because you are dealing with the enemy which is um, big in terms of size, 7 times bigger than in size, a vicious enemy who wants to root you out from the surface, wants to take over the entire country. I totally understand that. But there is one thing that you cannot do. You can do anything, but you just simply cannot change the neighbors. So we have to mend our fences and work with them. How do we work it out? Solve the Kashmir issue. If you solve the Kashmir issue, this money, $49.56 billion that India is spending on the defense, can substantially come down and spend that money on the welfare of the people. 8, 9 billions Pakistan, it's compared to what India spends is very nominal number, but it makes a huge difference for a population of 200 plus million. Now, why did I give you the comparison of US and China? US and China provide the war equipment to both these countries. Both countries buy from them. India and Pakistan buy these equipments from China, US, and Russia, who are the beneficiaries. So who are you supporting? Who is taking the reap? Who is enjoying the reaps of these fruits? It is those mega industries who manufacture these arms and keep this conflict alive, will keep them in business. The fear, the conflict, and not to talk about the political and economical economy, the political economy of Kashmir, that also has its own budget actually. How many people are taking advantage of Kashmir? I gave you the example of the companies in the countries that are making money out of this conflict. That is one thing. But there are so many people within Kashmir and within both sides of the countries, Pakistan and India, have so many tiny bits of organization, NGOs. What do? They also make money out of it. How do they do? How do they make money? Well, the conferences. They are hosting conferences right, left, here, there, and all those conferences are to build the opinion of liking and disliking. Somebody is paying for that. Somebody is sponsoring those conferences. I'm not saying that there are not genuinely there are people who are genuinely focusing towards the cause, but overwhelmingly, you can see the people who are making these programs, arranging these big conferences just for the sake of photo ops. Are they really serving the cause of Kashmir? Are they really targeting the right people, the people who actually can make the difference in solving the Kashmir conflict? Or it is just a photo op, an opportunity where you can go out and have, biryani and korma and rice and, get to meet people of high profile. And then you call it, yes, I hosted a conference. I have so much pain for Kashmir. This is how much money you have spent. And then somebody will compensate you. Who would that person be? You go figure. You'll be sending delegations from one country to another country, the official visits on the business class and the first class. And obviously these countries who will be sponsoring all these conferences and all that will make sure that they have their influence in place. And what are those influences? Take example for example at this time, US being the only power broker in the world. So US would not want to lose its influence. So long as Kashmir conflict is alive, it can use its influence for its own vested interest. Just like any other country in the world, US has its own interest. India has its own interest. Pakistan has its own interest. So why this Kashmir issue is not being resolved? I want you to watch this video and share your comments and give us the suggestion. What, in your opinion, why do you think that the world and the people that we rely on are not letting the issue of Kashmir be resolved? Share your comments in the comment section and give us your suggestions. I will be with you in the next episode with giving you the details how this uh, how this issue of Kashmir is being utilized by people, Kashmiris, for the sake of making money or making themselves to, or maybe creating their own self profile. Until next time, take good care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.